Alright, well, all we can say is dang, that fits perfectly. Look at this. With the JB Weld in there. Fits perfectly, so that's a tight fit. Fits in there. And the selector plate has it too. I don't know how I always get away with that, but somehow, you know, I get it to be perfect. I don't know how, just kind of eyeball it and notice what's going to not fit and not. I've noticed that these have generally a little bit more space than you think, so you can still JB weld them like that. I will tell you that the reason this got caught in the couple videos ago is because this is missing its plastic piece right here. It is melted off. So as you go to you know, install this, it gets caught. You can see that. So that might be fixed a little bit if I were to have this pushing on that to keep it, you know, pressed up, and maybe it won't snag. We'll have to look at that later. So go ahead and pull this out. And it's been at least 12 hours. So now I'm going to go over some of the stuff. I figured I would record things I do from this point as much as I can. I generally don't record everything just because my camera only accepts so much memory, and then transferring it to my computer. It's a very long, tedious process. So what we're going to try to do is check the shimming on this and shim this the best we can. I already know the motor height is adjusted properly, and I'm pretty sure that there's the right amount of shims on this. But I want to demonstrate that with a split gearbox shell, you can still assemble it and check it. The difficulty part is with the top. So here's the top right here, and you know, you try and check your angle of engagement. You know, how do you really check that? It looks like to me that the shell comes up within this area right here. Okay, get a closer view on this. And the reason that comes up is because the way it sits on there. It's thicker and it sits in the middle on that spot. So the spur gear has been hitting that somehow. Might be shimming related is what it looks like to me. Could have been, you know, previous, could be now. Not really sure yet until I try it out. But all these things can still be checked. You can still use the shell. So I'm just going to go over the angle of engagement really quick and go ahead and open this up. I was thinking about thread locking these screws, but now that I think about it, I might put some Teflon tape in the front too, just to hold it tighter, but because in case the person wants to, you know, remove the cylinder easily. That thread lock, these kinds of screws look like they might strip, and so I don't want to deal with that if that becomes an issue, you know. That's why I like to use just pure flatheads that are thick. The screws are kind of on the medium size, I guess. There's not too much threading that holds them in place. You notice that I can get the screw off pretty quickly. On the smaller screws at least, that bigger one was a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And I wish the spring guide could go all the way through. With this, you got to be a little on the careful side not to send this flying. Although those parts can still be usable, so I'm not going to swap them out. Alright, so here's the setup. Pull this out here. And there's the porting. And there is a little bit of red Loctite that holds the piston head together. This has been cut down a little bit for angle engagement. And then on the inside, I really don't want to take it apart. You can see the Neopad stuff is over the sorbothene, the 40D sorbothene. I was told, I actually need to check this, that his glue doesn't hold the sorbothene on the cylinder head. If that's true, that's a tight fit, which is good. Then, you know, this stuff's going to keep coming out, and I don't want that to happen for him, but no, this seems pretty dang solid. You know, what you could have had is, when I think about this, is the suction effect. This comes in and kind of sucked the sorbothene from this, and that's not going to happen anymore. Now that I think about this, you know, it hit and it kind of gets stuck to it a little bit and suck it back. Yeah, this seems glued on there pretty well, so I'm going to say that that's, you know, not an issue to worry about. And you can see the O-ring. This gives a great seal now. That's a tight fit. It's better to have a tight fit on that though, because these parts aren't really used other than for the air seal. They're not going to be moving or anything. Okay. All right. Okay, let's see what else we're going to do here. Go ahead and show angle of engagement and show the how good the air seal is. This is without grease, of course, so I put this forward here. Hold this. And as soon as you pass the port, see, that's very, very good. That's like 100% improvement over what you had. Alright, so set that aside for right now. Actually, don't set it aside for right now. Sometimes I'm not thinking what I'm going to be showing on camera. The reason why I didn't want to take this out is now I got to get this sitting here flushly. Alright. So you get this in here. Get your sector gear. Where is the sector gear? It's all the way over here. Doesn't need shims on it. They fell off, which I don't care for right now because I already know how many is going to probably be on there. And I'm going to reshim it myself. Alright, so you put it in here. And this I'm going to try to show best on camera I can. It's going to be kind of difficult. I don't want to send the spring guide flinging. So you put this in here and rotate. Man, this thing wants to go flinging. I just ain't gonna allow it. Alright, so you can see how far the piston will go forward with the sorbothane. So by eye you know, it passes the third tooth, and it's been corrected pretty well. So before it was something like this, which that would be terrible to have. So now you've got, sorry, I'm trying to move my hand here, see, so now it's like this. You can hear some kind of resistance. And see, that's what I was kind of looking at when I was doing this, because I would hear some kind of resistance, and I couldn't figure out, you know, if it's me holding the shell or not. Alright, so first things first, go ahead and reclose this really quick. God, definitely the technique of being able to put the screwdriver all the way through the spring guide is easier, much easier. This thing wants to go flying. I'm just not going to let it. Alright, when you get to this point, you just know that the cylinder head's not on there. Very good. Go. All right, it's definitely in there. All right, there is some kind of resistance. I'm not sure if it's just normal O-ring resistance without grease. Going to check that first. I thought I was going to show you, well, I guess I should show you that first, whatever. Go ahead and close this up really quick. Where's that screwdriver? So there is some cons to having a split gearbox. It's going to be harder to tell to shim it properly because this one doesn't lock down onto it tightly without the body, which doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if you're trying to, if you're a mechanic, technician working on this, you want to be able to tell that you're shimming spot on quickly. So it needs to lock into place. It doesn't seem to lock into place 100% flush. No way can it move solid. It needs that. Definitely needs that without being able to use the body as support. Okay, so we're going to do this first. Close this up here. You only really need one screw. It's just for demonstrating. Alright, so you got both together. Pull the sector gear back a little bit, and you'd put this into position, right? You just kind of hold it. And you can see that I could put a pin in there, and I could put the thing that locks a little bit better on there, but it doesn't hold it solid. Plus, how flush is this? You're trying to hold this as flush as possible. So you move the sector gear, see if it catches that tooth. And there's a lot of resistance. Which makes me wonder, is this resistance seems to be hitting the shell here. That's what it looks like. And it might be. you can hear the resistance of not having a shim on this side, as the as that piece, that lip for the cutoff is just rotating with it. See, if I was to rotate like this, you don't hear that extra rattle. See? But if you were in between there, you get perfect. So that's why it's going to take at least a shim for each side to remove that extra friction. Anyways, get it down in here best you can. Hold it straight. And rotate. Now I didn't feel it hit the see, usually I could just take this right off and check and see, but I can only move it up basically and see that it's in the same position. Yeah, it's not hitting the it's not hitting that first tooth. Pull it back here again, and then just simply go again. Another way to check is you could just drop it in place, right? And then see if you can come backwards. If you can come backwards, then it's not locked. So the angle engagement is corrected properly. Now to note is to find the resistance. I will tell you that looking at the gear, the highest point is in the middle, and as you move back the piston, correcting the angle engagement, you come back to that middle area. And what you might not know is resistance hitting this. The top of this pickup tooth could be slightly tipping this, and it may be so slight you can't tell. So what you're going to want to do is check that the piston can move. We're going to do that next. Basically take this apart here. So we know the angle of engagement is good. Alright, now we're going to check if there's resistance with the piston. So I'm basically just checking everything. Make sure that the cycle of the gearbox is superb, the best you can get. Alright. Okay, here, so you're going to take this out right away if we get that, and then just close this up. Make sure that that's in the center, and you're going to do this basically. Check and see, it has free movement. It's not moving up and down too much. Another thing when doing these separate gears, these different brands, is the sector as it rotates sometimes comes up too high, or it's too low, and or the piston comes too low. There's these mesh issues that occur that this could be engaging improperly between teeth, and so you want to look at that. You get it in position. There's an example right here, and just do this motion. You can feel, is there resistance in moving that? There's not. Does cycle fine. You can see that. I did check earlier that, you know, how far the piston goes back compared to the sector gear being able to rotate. And right here you can see there's plenty of room to rotate the sector gear, so that's not an issue. Now you will want to tighten down your thing here, because the reason is, you know, that's the pressure that's going to be holding real tight. See if your piston can move back and forth. The reason I'm doing all these checks is, again, this is an ICS. I've heard it's not TM compatible, and you know, there's these little issues these hidden issues that could be hiding because you don't check everything when installing a part. And I'm just checking everything. You know, these are the things that should be done every time you install a part, even if it's TM compatible, unless you know that part might work without a flaw. But I still suggest it. Reason is because if you do something to that part, you know, you change your angle engagement or something, you should always hand check it first before you pull the trigger. That way you know, hey, you know, it's not going to bust. I'm 100% confident, you know, it's going to work. So go ahead and push it forward, feel the resistance if there's any. Left and right movement, there's a little bit, but once it's in the cylinder, that's not going to matter. You can see here, this is perfectly fine. Okay. So go ahead and take that apart. And we'll move on to checking the tappet plate. That would be checked with the sector gear as well when you're shimming. Same as the piston, you want to make sure that the sector gear aligns with the teeth correctly. If it comes up too high or it's too low, you know, it's hitting into the piston's plastic. I'll show that right now so people understand. So to confirm, would this get caught in the back here because of the piston? No. It would go all the way back. The spring guide would definitely not get caught. The sector gear can rotate, so none of this would be preventing that. Now what you can check before we move on to the next part I was talking about is here, is you want to look and see if there is marking on the bottom of your cylinder. There is some marking. So it is hitting the cylinder a little bit. That could be resulting of the old piston or the new piston. And the way you can tell is put it in. Right, got it in place. You can almost just eyeball this. Sorry, it's blocking the port or the air nozzle. Now see, it doesn't always come down that much when you close the gearbox shell. So you want to tilt this in and get this in there properly. Okay, right, so you could hold this real tight or tighten it, and you can see if it hits it or not. Take your screwdriver here and just go back and forth. And you can see right there, no issue. Alright, no issue there. So this upper portion is pretty much all checked. Last is checked with the tappet plate, and then, you know, when you go to shim the sector, you want to check what it's going to be touching, the tap plate and the piston. Oh, what I was going to show reference to before I show the tappet plate is the plastic here. Okay, this shielding of plastic. When the sector comes around, where's the sector real quick? It's right here. You know, it's just gonna hit whatever it can. So as it's going around, if it's not properly in between here, it can hit, sorry, it can hit the edges here, so it can hit this. And if it hits this, that is going to, it can drag your piston up where it's not really cycling correctly. So again, you wouldn't want something that's like that. Makes absolutely no sense, and you don't want anything like that. That makes absolutely no sense. You want just in between, so that it's getting in between there and not hitting the plastic. And that seems to cycle through very well. And I think that's because this says SHS brand and this is SHS brand right here. So the spacing seems to be perfectly fine. I don't think there's no TM issue right here, no TM compatible issue yet. So check your tappet plate. Let's say this is probably stock, but if it was new, close this up, tighten it down, and check that you get back and forth movement. The reason is because it could be too thick and it could get snagged in here. Check with your putting on your spring here. The reason is because it could be snagging in here. We already know that that doesn't happen. In a previous video, we know that this goes through already, no issue. So when you're shimming this, it's going to be a little weird. You have to make sure that it has clearance from this cam right here that doesn't have a delay clip. So we're going to be looking at that too. Just kind of saw a little marking on the sector here. Alright, so if this is, let's say if this sector here comes up too high, it's going to put pressure against your tappet plate, which is going to push too much into the shell, just showing an example, and cause a lot of drag for your cycle. And what we want is just basically right there. It's just going around, I'm pushing on the back here so it doesn't drag against the gearbox shell, but it would spin something like that as an example. You don't hear any touching of the gearbox shell. See, it would be more in the center. Okay, so I'm gonna say that's it for now, and then do another video of more testing and checking. And that looks like it might start cracking. Hopefully that's just me thinking. Just looks like a bunch of lines. I don't think it's actually cracking.